reminder to all personnel to wash your hands after using the bathroom. When you shake hands with someone, it's like they're shaking hands with everyone you've ever known, including your mother. And you wouldn't want anyone touching your mother, would you?
Hey everyone, welcome to the Far Cry 3 Blood Dragon Spoilercast show. I'm Bryden Gage. I've got with me Gage Paul here today.
Hi.
And we're going to talk about Blood Dragon all the way through. We're going to talk about the story, the gameplay, our thoughts about this 80s adventure, and overall our ratings of the game too at the very end of this. And we'll start off with the fact that this game is a standalone game, but it is technically still DLC to Far Cry 3, so it's one of those experiences. We'll rarely do Spoilercast for types of games like this, but this felt like we really needed to do it.
Yeah.
This game has this weird awesomeness to it, this 80s love just oozing out of it.
This has everything I love in a game.
Yeah, and we have some interesting opinions that are a bit mixed, I think, from time to time regarding it, but still, I think we can both agree that we had a good time playing the game and it's definitely worth picking up. Let's start off with just pretty much the beginning of the game here. And the beginning of the game is pretty simple. You're just kind of getting your hooks into the story, and it's, I don't know how to best explain it, but it is just pulling on all these 80s references. You got Michael Bain, voice acting Sergeant Rex Power Colt. You're getting the storyline, you know.
You got your buddy who you've obviously been in battle with before.
Yeah.
You the classic Predator like arm grab where your arms are flexing.
And both their muscles go, and they flex, and I'm like, yes! And immediately when you start the game, you're coming in on a helicopter on this island, and you're shooting up everything. It's that moment of just like, you have all the power. You're going in, and it's kind of like a tutorial, but the game really does give you your first tutorial in a very tutorial fashion. It's hard to explain this game in that type of aspect, but the game is soaked with this 80 B-movie style, but it's also mixed into with, on the other hand, this very self-aware, this very... You're throwing, instead of rocks in Far Cry 3, you're throwing
D20s.
D20s, nerd. And at the same time, too, the tutorial to start the game is literally just this terrible tutorial where it's to jump, and everything included
running
falling.
Makes you move faster.
Yeah, and it's obviously trying to, you know, get you into the game, get you into that. And I didn't really... that was one of the few humorous things in the game I actually didn't really stick with me. You like that part a little bit more, though? Or
I liked it at first, and then it just kind of like, okay, I get it.
Yeah.
And then it wore on a little bit long.
We can't really... And this is the other thing, too, we're going to talk about, is this is a really weird spoiler cast for us, because there isn't much story here to talk about. And this story is so cheesy. This is supposed to be cheesy. This game is supposed to be this, like I said, 80s B movie to the extreme. And you have Michael Bain, you have all these references to games, or not games, but movies like Terminator, Predator,
even Top Gun,
RoboCop, all these other, just everything that was awesome and, you know, popcorn flicky from all those 80s movies is put into this game. You're in this far distant future of 2007. The world's post-apocalyptic, and Canada's now a wasteland, which they make sure to tell you several times.
They tell you that a bunch, and that was great.
Yeah. It's
we're
good.
From Canada.
We're from Canada. It's one of those things that we actually got a little bit more of a kick out of, but I just loved how they're like, remember when we were in Canada and it was a wasteland?
Canada's a wasteland now.
Yeah, they just keep referencing it. It was really good. And you get in touch with kind of understanding what this really loose story is about. You meet the bad guy in a lot of ways, Sloan, who's this... Well, you're a cyborg, but he's even more of a cyborg in a lot of ways.
He's also crazy,
insane. And then you have the Doctor as well, who's essentially the love interest too. And all these characters are your stereotypical, straight to the core of what you'd expect out of each of these characters. But that's the point of this game. It's very trying to get you into this mode where you're accepting that you're in for the cheese. You're in for this very, very, very 80s adventure. So you go through that. You get to also experience for your first time kind of the combat and everything like that. And the combat in this game is extremely reminiscent of Far Cry 3, which is both a good thing and a bad thing.
Yeah, it is pretty much Far Cry 3. They don't really add... I guess they technically add new weapons.
The weapons, that's the thing I was going to say. The weapons are the positive of it, but it feels like Far Cry 3, and which it should, because it really is Far Cry 3 with a different, different makeup on it. It's a different skin on top of this game, which is a negative, but the problem I had when I was playing this game, I was really comparing it too much to Far Cry 3, when really this game is a standalone title. You can buy it without even playing Far Cry 3, and it is a great adventure that should be balanced on its own merits, and balanced on the fact as well that it's only $15 rather than Far Cry 3 being a full-price game when it came out. So it's supposed to be quarter of the game, and I give it a lot of credit for being that type of title as well. But yeah, you go in, you're going to... I don't even know exactly. Like, that was
I think you're stopping some sort of nuclear...
Yeah, there's something like that going on. You're going to Spider, who's your buddy, and Spider dies pretty much immediately in this. That's your first interaction with Sloan as well, where he's just like...
I think he literally references that he retires soon.
Yeah.
He's like, I'm done after this.
Yeah, this is my last mission. I'm too old for this shit.
I think he literally says that.
Yeah, there's it is that to the point of making sure that you're like, yep, that's this character, and this character mixed into what is now Spider. And then you have your big no sequence, and you're essentially killed in a lot of ways. And it was really funny. I thought this was a bit of a reference to Far Cry 3. They put you in this bunch of dead bodies as well. You have the dead body scene. You have nothing. They give you a lot to start the game. You give you all this power, and then they take it away from you. And I think that was kind of a cool thing that they did. Is like, you're gonna have all these weapons, but you need to get there first. You need to build your way up to actually being this badass. And through this point, you get to experience the blood dragons for the first time, which is the crux of the game in a lot of ways. These T-Rexes that are also mutated weird, like, and they're called dragons as well. And you collect these things, you pilfer enemies. Everybody that you're fighting is cyborgs, so you pilfer their cyber hearts, and that's how you distract these blind blood dragons.
Well, not blind, they're just very, very
short-sighted. They can't see that well. And yeah, it was really cool because you at the very beginning here, you don't have any weapons. You're just trying to sneak by these blood dragons, and you're using these hearts to essentially, kind of lure them away to be at different places. But the first part you do here is you actually get in, you get your first garrison, and you really see the destruction of the blood dragons, which I found the blood dragons at first to be extremely hard to take down, and it was really cool. They made it hard, which was a nice thing to see.
And one of the achievements is actually killing them with a bow, which is, I can imagine that being very difficult.
Just the tip. So
I didn't realize it was called that. That's great. It's
so good. But one of the quotes we have to share is when you clear out the garrison, the doctor. What's the doctor's name?
I don't remember.
Yeah, we'll look it up right now. But the doctor nonetheless is asking you, we can make you stronger. We can make you more like Sloan.
It's the blood dragon's blood, but we took out the things that'll make you crazy.
Yeah, and the reaction was, Gage and me were here at the same time when I was playing through this, and it was one of those moments where we both essentially just looked at each other and were like, yes, thank you, this is amazing. And Rex says, I promised a special lady that I wouldn't do drugs. And she's like, oh,
your wife?
Your wife? And it's like, no, Lady Liberty.
And the American flag comes in the background.
And Lady Liberty is there, but she has she's just graffitiing and like fuck on her and just like penises and stuff like that. It's absolutely fantastic.
What's with the needle, Doc?
Listen, this will make you more like Sloan. Powerful, but without the side effects.
No, Doc. No way. I swore an oath to a special lady.
Your wife?
No. Lady Liberty. She taught me that winners don't use drugs.
Yeah, so there's all these things in the game that are really cool when they kind of pull together like that. Because that's really the humor that you enjoy, And the weapons as well are representative of certain movies. Like the pistol's supposed to be the RoboCop pistol.
Yeah.
I don't know all the references because I'm a 90s kid, and you got a bit more reference knowledge because you're an 80s movies buff in a lot of ways compared to me at least. But it's really cool because they do reference even the way you hold the sawed-off shotgun is very similar to, I believe, Terminator. And it's awesome seeing all this because you can totally respect, and I think to someone that is of that age that they can respect it even more is even more fantastic. But I totally got a lot out of it too. So you move on from that. The next mission that was kind of, I'd say, the bigger point. You are trying to blow up this dam essentially, and you get to meet up with the cyber sharks for the first time there. We're not really talking that much about the gameplay, and I think the reason why that I wanted to point out is that this game's...
It's Far Cry 3.
Yeah, and the Far Cry 3 gameplay was pretty good. This is just, it doesn't feel as good. I don't know.
No.
I don't know if that's because I played it before or because it just doesn't feel as strong. It's not there for me as much.
Yeah.
So it was really just kind of waiting for the one-liners, the quotes to really come in. And you get to fight with the cyber sharks for the first time, which was kind of, a funny thing. I was waiting for, I know this isn't necessarily a 80s quote, but I was waiting for
Jump
sharks.
the shark.
Yeah, no, not that. I was waiting for sharks with lasers on their heads.
Yeah.
I would have, they already gave the blood dragons eyes that shoot freaking lasers out. Why don't give the sharks lasers on their heads or something like that? Still a little disappointed in that, but I also love the animals too, because the game gives you all these different animals to essentially pilfer, and the pigs are the only ones that really don't look like cyber things, but they have graffiti on them.
The castleries?
Yeah,
those are cyber.
they're freaking scary. Those things were like, they go, ah! My interpretation of one of those animals, but those animals were something else. I don't know, because their face would be like half cyborg, like it'd be ripped off. I'm like, Jesus Christ, you weren't as scary in Far Cry 3. So I mean, you go through that. Nothing too really. Do you have anything to say about that mission specifically, or?
No, it was just kind of like fun sneaking around that dam.
Yeah, you get your real first. Well, you could have taken down a blood dragon before that, but shortly thereafter, you get your first actual fight with a blood dragon too.
And one of the things I like about that gameplay is they change the gameplay. You run a lot faster.
Yeah.
Because you're a cyborg. You swim faster and breathe underwater forever, and you have infinite fall damage. Like you can drop off everything. So I immediately went to the top of the dam and jumped off because I just wanted to land in there like a badass, and that was fun. But that mission was the first mission where I was like, yeah, this is what I want.
Dr. Darling is the name.
Oh yeah, Dr. Darling.
I knew it was something that was playing on the words too, but yeah, so that's your doctor in the game there, your love interest as well. But we move on from that, and the story essentially starts to escalate a bit more, where you're really trying to get to Sloan. And you go through the missions here, you're trying to get to him, take him out. That's pretty much the point. But you're also trying to get yourself to be a certain level of power. And I don't know, we've done a couple of these before. We've done a couple of these spoiler casts. This just feels weird to me a little bit, because this game is so loose in its storyline that I played the game like 5 days ago, and I'm having trouble remembering physical moments out of this game. But let's jump ahead, because we're not really missing too much. I wanted to jump ahead to Dr. Carlisle, because you're going after him. My experience in this game is that the very first part of the game, the first 3 missions, the third mission there, I'm forgetting the exact name of it.
I think it was a hostage mission.
Yeah, that's what it was. You're rescuing the hostage.
Their tutorial.
Yeah, because they did the garrison tutorial, then the hostage tutorial as well. But Dr. Carlisle is the guy that you're going after, and Darling tells you to go do it. That was in that really funny thing. She's like, or you're like, what do you want me to do? And Darling's like, I guess kill him. Like, that's what I do best, or something like that. But the best part about Darling too, I have to share, is that I love how she just starts getting really sexual right away.
Yeah. Like,
it's just like, they don't even wait for it to like be awkwardly grown into. It's just like, oh, Rex, you're so powerful with guns. And another thing too, this is the thing. Okay, this game is based on quotes, so that's what I got out of this experience more than anything. When after the damn missions that she's talking about, or they're talking about playing video games, and she's like, personally, I think video games are great for really developing people and making them better. Yeah, everything. And then personally, I think that anybody who doesn't play or doesn't like video games is a fucking idiot. And it's like, whoa, Darling, what are you doing? And there's my weird back and forth voices there, and she's like failing to understand the capacity for caring or something. I don't know. It was like she made up a weird thing, but that was another like weird, funny quote as well. Moving on to Carlisle, that was my favorite mission. Well, not my favorite mission, but that's what got me hooked on the game. Because before that, I was having fun, but I was just enjoying the quotes. Wasn't really enjoying the gameplay. You go take a hang glider all the way to the place that Carlisle's hanging out, and again, just all these quotes, all this stuff that's what stuck with me from this game, is just the humor in it.
Yeah.
How the announcer's saying
it's a water cooler game.
Yeah, it definitely is. It's one of those games that we've talked about quite a bit, and just like our moments that we really enjoyed with it. The person over the intercom saying that we've now, triggered your grenades to go off when you say this certain word, and she says it, and then like all these grenades go off and stuff like that. I thought that was really funny as well. And then when you're going after Carlisle and you're going in, you're destroying the eggs as well for the dinosaurs. That was actually a very intense mission there where you're hiding around and trying to take out those 3 blood dragons. But yeah, that was probably my part where I really got hooked on it. And again, it's very basic in the type of things that you're doing.
They're pretty basic missions. It's pretty much going and kill everybody.
Yeah,
mostly.
so I mean, like, that's where we get really conflicted when we talk about this game, because there's not that much to talk about, but when we talk about the moments that you share within the game, that's what really makes this game stick out. You have fun, going through the levels, but it's very basic. The story is there, but it's kind of like a placeholder story for this 80s movie type of scenario. And at the same time, too, everything you're doing towards it is very much, again, nothing too special either. So when you're building all towards that, it really doesn't stand out in a lot of ways. But then you actually break down the quotes and stuff from certain moments. That's what really brings you in, really gets you excited when you're playing the game. And for me, on that mission specifically, I really enjoyed when he said he was going to release the man kraken. They're like, oh, it's not ready. But at the moment, I'm like, oh my god, what am I?
I have to fight this thing?
Yeah, like, what is a man kraken? Like, I was thinking it was like I was literally thinking part human, part man, like something that had like tentacles and like, I don't know. I thought it was going to be the curveball the game was going to throw at me. Luckily, or actually not luckily, I was hoping that we're gonna have to fight it, but it went to a cutscene when you're escaping after
you jump over them and drop your grenades.
Yeah,
into them.
And that was really, again, cutscenes in this game are fantastic. But yeah, so you go through that as well. You also go through taking out the eggs, where the blood dragons are essentially being born, and after that you go to get the ultimate weapon.
Yeah,
that's the next step in your journey, and this was. I don't know, like, I enjoyed this mission, but I also didn't enjoy it. It was kind of weird. Like, I felt very displaced from what was going on. It was funny in a lot of ways. I liked how they were giving me all these weapons. I could do all these things.
Zombies.
Yeah, but it was like, zombies, why are they here? But getting the weapon was the really cool part for me. And this is where it leads to probably the coolest point in the game, at least for me, where we're talking about Dr. Carlisle, at least, again, for me, I'm not speaking for you, Gage, but that was the jumping off mission where I'm like, okay, I'm in.
Yeah.
And then you get the essential montage where he's trying to get in shape, trained, so that he's ready to go fight Sloane.
Yeah.
It's a freaking long cutscene.
It's like 5-6 minutes.
Yeah, and following this up too is you get closer to Darling, and you have the most awkward sex scene in a video game possibly ever, maybe. And we were both talking about how we were playing this with people around and just being like, it's okay, move along. We're just
don't look.
Video games, but really funny, really good, and that actual cutscene, the sex scene I thought was pretty funny, but the actual just montage of him working out was fantastic. Where it's like he's doing it better now. He's doing it with one hand. Yeah, all that stuff.
600 push-ups.
Yeah, it was awesome, and that was again really just relating to the person playing the game and being very tongue-in-cheek and making you enjoy what's going on there. So with that as well, we move on to what is essentially the final mission. There's like 2 parts of the final mission. At this point, you're a badass. You got this, I don't know what...
laser?
Yeah, it's just, we'll call it a death laser. It's on your hand, it spins, it takes some of your health, but it just destroys everything.
That's all I used to that last mission.
The music was awesome. Music is awesome throughout the whole game.
Yeah.
The gameplay is very, you're just going through the motions a lot of times, but still a lot of fun. This made you feel even more of a badass when you're going through there. And they're telling, stop him, stop Rex. So after briskly getting through a lot of that stuff there too, you get into a building within, and then you enter into this room. The lights start going crazy. The music is as 80s as possible.
Yeah. There's
a blood dragon on all fours, it's essentially a chair and like a little bit of a mount for you to sit on.
Brain cage.
And a brain cage. With the brain cage is what control the blood dragons. And it's even speaking to, it's like, because you have that weapon, you can control me and do what you want. And the last part, when you're getting towards Sloane, you're essentially riding a freaking blood dragon, shooting lasers.
And has the best quotes in probably the whole game.
It's amazing. Is absolutely, again, laughing.
Like, my first reaction to this is I'm like, oh, it's going to be a turret sequence. And then he just starts moving and he goes, and I'm shooting in this turret. And he just goes, also, I can shoot lasers out my fucking eyes.
It's so good.
Fires lasers. I'm just like, yes!
And so he continues, and then, like, my favorite quote from that was like, this is fun and sad. And and then he said genocide is fun. And my weird moment I had to share with you, Gage, was that as Rex, I was shooting something and he blew something up and he said, I give it a 9.5, and I was like, yes. And I thought it was circumstantial. I didn't think other people would experience that at the very moment, but I was just like, in this moment, this dinosaur is saying the freaking best quotes ever. I shoot something, and he's like, I give it a 9.5, and I'm like, this is so right. This is so awesome. And my game score for this game is not necessarily that high, but I still really respect it.
Yeah.
Everything going on there. You have your final confrontation with Sloan, which he then tells you that he's your father, and then you yell no, and then you have a moment where you're like, I can use my heart to win, or I don't know, just really long cutscene there as well, and you destroy Sloan essentially. We gotta also say R.I.P. to rest in peace, Blood Dragon.
Blood Dragon that you were riding.
It was so sad seeing its head topple over.
Yeah.
I'm like, no.
I was just like, oh.
He's so good. Why couldn't I have him forever? That would just be like the best mount that you could just have the whole game. He's like, where are we going today? Just like from the movie Up, just having Doug as your like Blood Dragon. It would have been absolutely amazing. But still, very just, you ride off into the sunset. But then the twist is that Darling has purple eyes or something. Do you get that part there?
No, I didn't understand. I was like, this means something, but I don't.
So she turns around, like you essentially, you defeat Sloan, you destroy whatever again, I feel terrible because I don't know all the details, but you don't need to know the details. Yeah. It's like this game is based on you just pretty much just freaking playing the game. It's nothing more than that. And you destroy everything.
And you're standing there holding
sunset,
watching the explosion and sunset and stuff.
And she turns around and she her neck twists in a weird way, I thought, and her eyes went purple. And I was like, oh, okay. And then the end's there. And supposedly they're working on a sequel. There might be another Blood Dragon game, which is both awesome and weird and amazing at the same time too. But that's pretty much Blood Dragon. We dabbled. Did you dabble in the side missions or?
Yeah, I played a few of them.
So we'll talk a little bit about those as well. I didn't get into that much because the problem that I had with that and the actual leveling up in this game is it's very streamlined compared to Far Cry 3.
Yeah.
Again, me comparing it to Far Cry 3, but I didn't feel the need to go around doing that much stuff. So I did a couple side animal, I wanted to kill some animals, so I did some of that stuff. Also, maybe a couple hostage missions, but I didn't actually do any of the straight side mission quests or anything like that. Did you get into anything interesting, or?
No, I just pretty much did those for the attachments, and then I went around and liberated a few garrisons.
I heard there was like a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle mission as well that I kind of feel sad that I didn't play.
I didn't see that one.
But yeah, so I mean, there was stuff there to do. There's stuff to get around the island, but I feel like I played about 3 hours for the game, maybe.
Probably 4. I also explored.
Yeah, well, there you go. I spent less time in this game. The problem for me is that when I got into the final missions, I was like, okay, I want to experience this now. But before then, I was actually really sour on this game, surprisingly. And it was a turnaround for me that felt like I was just maybe not wanting to play a game like this. And then when it really started clicking, the quotes and everything, the missions and stuff, that's when it really hooked me. But overall, I felt like it was one of those games that I did have mixed feelings towards. So I think we're good. We pretty much talked about what this game is. Like we said, shorter Spoilercast this time because this game is not as big of other titles. And it also has a lot less content to talk about too. But let's get down to our actual reviews for the game. And we're using the Checkpoint Achieved review scale, which we have used in the past, but I'll remind you guys once again what we review games on. It's really kind of based on what we thought of the game, right? And we also base it on kind of pricing too. Not necessarily saying a game is excellent, great, those type of scales, but we really go into, if you're a consumer, you're looking to buy a game, right? We want to at least try our best to kind of give you our opinions of the game after the fact, after, completion, but also kind of give you a scale of what we really thought the game was worth in a lot of ways. So we start off at the very top. 9.8 to 10 is a classic, and these are, games that we will rarely ever give a score to. We just barely got into a BioShock Infinite. That was a very rare case.
Yeah, it was right on the line.
And, I mean, as we continue to do this, it'll be really interesting to see if we ever touch on that, get close to that again. But yeah, it's one of those games that we rarely will ever give a score like that to, but very high. We don't even rate it on that type of value scale. We say this is a classic. This is one of the best games of the generation for sure. Must Play is a game below that, but that's a 9 to 9.7. Still a really great game overall, and a game that we recommend that you must play.
Day one.
It's a game that you have to go out, you have to go try. It's an awesome game. You need to check it out. Full price below that is 8 to 8.9. This is a game that we recommend you go buy as well. You know, you can even buy day one too. But we're not recommending it as a game that you have to go play.
If you're interested in it.
Yeah, give it a shot, give it a go. And we say, like, it's not a game that you should wait for or anything like that. It's something that if you have interest in this, we're saying thumbs up. Go try it out, go play it, go buy it on day one, or at least in the first couple weeks or so.
This is worth the full price.
Yeah, and below that we got Price Drop, 6.5 to 7.9. A Price Drop is a game that we are actually enjoying. We had a good time with, but
maybe not worth $60.
yeah, it's one of those titles that we'd say after the fact, because we'll play these games usually when they come out right away. So we'll say, yeah, this was a good game. You should check it out. Just wait a little bit. Wait till it drops to $39.99 or something like that. When it gets that price drop, that's a good time to check it out, because maybe you won't be as upset if you didn't enjoy the game, because you could very well enjoy it more than we did, but you also might be on the other side of it too. Bargain bin below that, 5 to 6.4. It's starting to get in a bit of the sketchy area. These are ones that we really don't recommend. Sometimes we have those games that we see some appealing things from it, but really it is kind of a trashy game in a lot of ways. Yeah. Yeah, Dead Island is, you would say bargain bin maybe? Or, well, we're not doing that today.
Yeah.
We'll move on, but it's one of those games that we're really like, you shouldn't buy this, but if you really want to, wait till it is
$20.
yeah, something
less
below
than
there.
that even.
Just in that place where it's like you can spend money on it without feeling bad no matter what.
Yeah.
Don't buy below that, 3 to 4.9. Just saying, don't buy this game. We made the terrible mistake. Somehow we fell down this hole, bought this game, and now we're crying about the fact that we spent $60 on it. Do not buy this game. Below that, broken game, 1 to 2.9. This game is broken. It is even worse than a don't buy. It has physical problems with the game that makes you
work.
Yeah. So just don't even touch it. And most of those lower scale scores we won't give
Probably
games.
won't use. Yeah.
But they're there in the case that we need to pull a code red. So I'll start off with you, Gage. What was your experience? What was your thoughts? And what was your score for Far Cry 3 Blood Dragon?
I had a lot of fun playing this game. It was hilarious. The first couple missions aren't great, and the combat is a little repetitive. Like I've said, I've played quite a bit of Far Cry 3, so I had already experienced most of this.
Yeah.
I am a big sci-fi nerd, though.
Which kind of balances out in a way.
Yeah, so I probably enjoyed it more than someone like who isn't that much into sci-fi or 80s B movies.
Yeah.
But I would probably give it a 7.5. I'm gonna go with 7.5.
7.5. Okay. So you're saying a price drop, and I'm kind of there with you. You're saying the first part of the game is not necessarily something that I feel is that great.
Yeah, it's kind of corridory, which isn't great for Far Cry 3.
Yeah, because I feel the game really, for me, Far Cry 3 really relies on a lot of its beauty and just the overall style of the game. Again, comparing it to a game that is quarter the price is a little hard to do that to a game, but it's our experience with these titles. It's how we really got in touch with these games, right? And for me, playing Blood Dragon was a great experience. The actual combat in the game was something that I wasn't too enthralled with. It was totally doable, though. I love the guns, though, and the quotes in the game. The actual end of the story really makes it worth something, worth checking it out. And I'm pretty much in the same boat as you. I almost, because we were doing a spoiler cast, we said we are going to do a spoiler cast for this. I was at the point near not finishing this game, which sounds crazy to me. I would have finished it anyway because I would have just slogged through it. But my experience went from that to loving it.
Yeah.
And even though at the end I was at that point, I have to give the fact as well at the beginning that I was feeling that much frustration towards it, which it wasn't a massive amount, but it was still something that I was like, I just wasn't enjoying myself.
I was kind of bored.
Yeah, it wasn't an experience I wanted. It came out in the end, but for a game that really, if you only go through the main story, I think that I actually spent about 4.5 hours or so of the game with just roaming around and stuff, but the main story was about 3 hours for me. It's not extremely deep. If you're not going to enjoy the first almost half of the actual main story, that's kind of taking away from the experience. So my review for the game is very similar to yours. I'm going to give it a 7.3. That's a price drop as well. A little bit low just compared to you, because I think we've talked about the fact that you enjoyed it maybe a bit more than me. That has to do with the sci-fi aspects. I still think it's an awesome game.
Yeah.
And in a lot of ways, that is it's not a massively high price drop, but that's,
It's hard to call this a price drop when it is only $15.
Yeah. I mean, in a lot of ways, that's kind of the conflicting thing here, is that I almost feel like it's a full price, but I don't feel like it's at the end of it.
No.
Because just because of what I like and because of my love for the 80s, like if you have that love for wanting to check out something neat, want to check out something weird, please buy this game. Buy it at full price because it really is worth that. If you're on the fence about this one though, you don't have to go out there right away. So it's a really weird kind of situation for us. I think that's why we both fall on Price Drop. In a lot of ways, for the people that are interested in it, totally is a full price. It might even be a must play. But on the other side of it all, it could be completely passable too.
Yeah.
So that's pretty much it for our Far Cry 3 Blood Dragon Spoilercast. Hope you enjoyed. We'll be doing more of these in the future. Next one coming up will be for Remember Me, coming out June 4th. We're definitely going to be interested in checking that one out.
Yeah.
So that should be a fun experience to get into that game. The Last of Us 2 later in June, and Deadpool as well. That's the Gage signature one that we're going to get into. But Metro Last Light and Fuse as well might get the special treatment as well. It just depends on where we are. You're going away to Hawaii for a bit, so
I think I'm away, or I get back right at the release of those, I think.
yeah, I think you're here for Last Light, but then you leave a couple days or like 3 or 4 days later, and then Fuse comes out right when you come back. So
Yeah.
And the thing about Fuse is Fuse comes out the week before Remember Me, so it's gonna be a lot of games coming out around that period. So we're gonna definitely have a lot of spoiler casts coming up. But if you want to recommend or want to hear a spoiler cast for a certain game coming out, leave your responses at checkpointachieved@gmail.com, and we'll definitely get to them, respond to them, and possibly even do a spoiler cast for one of those games as well. But if you enjoyed this, you can check out our podcast at Checkpoint Achieved on iTunes. You can rate us 5 stars. We really appreciate that as well. We'll be back next week with a regular show, and we said we'll be back as well with the Remember Me spoiler cast sometime in June. Thanks, guys, for listening, and we'll see you around.
Bye.